Today we're going to learn how to solve absolute value equations and inequalities. You have to remember when solving absolute value equations or inequalities that whatever is in the absolute value symbols, remember that the absolute value symbols turns that to a positive. So whatever's inside can be a positive and it also can be a negative. So you are going to write two equations or two inequalities for each problem. For example, on the first one, you have the absolute value of x equals 4. Well, we know that x could equal 4. But also, if the x was negative 4, the absolute value of negative 4 is also 4. So x could also equal negative 4. So I have two solutions to this, and it's x equals 4 and negative 4. And that's how you're just going to write it. Just write two of them like that, kind of like when you write an inequality. I'm sorry, when you write a quadratic solution, you'd have two. Let's go to number 2 and look at number 2. Okay, on number 2, you have the absolute value of 3x plus 4 equals 10. Well, what's inside that absolute value can be a positive, it can also be a negative. It has to equal either a positive 10 or a negative 10. So we're going to write two equations for this. Either 3x plus 4 equals 10, and the other one would be 3x plus 4 equals negative 10, because what's inside that absolute value can be negative, and the absolute value symbols will turn it to positive. So we're going to solve both of them. The first one, we're going to subtract 4, and we get 3x equals 6, divide by 3, and x equals 2. On the second one, you do the same thing. You just solve it. You're going to get a different answer. You're going to subtract 4. 3x equals negative 14. Divide by 3. And x equals negative 14 thirds. So we have two solutions. We have that x equals 2, and it also equals negative 14 thirds. And so that's how you write your solution to this absolute value equation. Let's look at number 3. Okay, on number 3 we have absolute value of 13 minus 5x equals 2. So remember, what's in that absolute value symbol can equal 2. It can also equal negative 2. So we're going to write two equations. 13 minus 5x equals 2. And 13 minus 5x can also equal negative 2. So let's go ahead and do this one on your own. See what you get. Okay, I got x equals 11/5 and 3, and it doesn't matter what order you write them in. You can write 3 and 11/5. It doesn't matter. So hopefully you got the same thing I did. Check it. If you didn't, check my work, see what I did differently than you. Let's look at number 4. We're going to do some inequalities now. Okay, inequalities are done exactly the same way as equations, except for, remember, when we multiply by a -1, you have to flip your sign around. So when we change that 8 to a negative, we have to flip our sign around. So we're going to do two inequalities for this. The first one is going to be 3x minus 4 is less than or equal to 8, just like it looks like. The other one is going to be 3x minus 4, and we're going to flip it around, is greater than or equal to -8. So that's how you set up your two inequalities for this, and then you solve them. So we're going to plus 4. We get 3x is less than or equal to 12. Divide by 3. Divide by 3. And x is less than or equal to 4. Okay, let's do the other one. So we're going to add 4. And we get 3x is greater than or equal to -4. Divide by 3. And x is greater than or equal to -4 thirds. Now you have to decide, can it be both? Can x be less than or equal to 4? And can it be greater than or equal to -4 thirds? Sometimes it's easier if you graph it, and you're going to have to graph your answer. So go ahead and draw yourself a graph. I know that I need 4 and -4 thirds in my answer, so I'm going to put 0 about right there. And -4 thirds is -1 1/3, so I'm going to at least go to -2. And now I'm going to graph this And I know that x is less than or equal to 4, so that would be right there. I'm going to do a closed circle there. And x is greater than or equal to negative 4/3. That's negative 1 1/3. Okay, less than or equal to 4 goes this direction. Greater than or equal to negative 4/3 goes this direction. They meet, and so therefore my answer is in between those two. So what I need to do with this answer right here is I need to put it together into a compound inequality. I'm going to put the lowest amount on the left, negative 4/3 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 4. You must put it together in a compound inequality. And that's our answer. This is our inequality answer, and then you must also have the graph. Okay, let's look at number 5 and see if it's different. Okay, on number 5 we have the absolute value of 6 minus 2x is greater than 14. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to write two inequalities. 6 minus 2x is greater than 14, and 6 minus 2x is less than, I have to flip it around, negative 14, and I'm going to solve them both. So go ahead and solve them both on your own right now, and let's see what we get. Okay, I got that x is less than negative 4 and x is greater than 10. So remember that when we divide by negative, as we did here, we have to flip our symbol around. So instead of a greater than, it became a less than. Same thing here. When we divided by negative 2, the less than symbol becomes a greater than symbol. So make sure you got that part right. Okay, now we're going to graph this. So we're going to draw our graph. And I am going to make my graph go by 2's because I need a negative 4 and a 10 in my graph. So I'm going to do negative 2 and negative 4, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay, so let's graph this. X is less than negative 4. That means that I would do an open circle on negative 4 and I would go this direction. X is greater than 10, open circle on 10, and I would go this direction. They are not going to meet, and so therefore I can't put them in a compound inequality. I'm going to put the word or between them. So that's my graph, and my solution is x is less than negative 4 or x is greater than 10, and that would be my inequality solution. Okay, make sure you ask questions if you're not sure about something. Let's look at number 6. Okay, on number 6, we have 3 minus, absolute value of 3 minus x is less than 2. So we're going to write two inequalities. 3 minus x is less than 2, and 3 minus x, we have to flip it around, is greater than negative 2, and we're going to solve both of them. Remember, when you divide by a negative, don't forget to flip your symbol around. So go ahead and solve those. Okay, I got x is greater than 1 and x is less than 5. And then we need to ask ourselves, can we be both? Can we be greater than 1 and less than 5? And if you can't tell just by the numbers, it's really easy if you graph it. Okay, so I am going to do x is greater than 1, so that would be an open circle on 1, and I would go this direction. X is less than 5, open circle on 5, and we're going to go this direction. They are going to meet, therefore I can write a compound inequality. So you take the smaller number, 1 is less than x, and then the bigger number goes on the other side, is less than 5. That means x is between 1 and 5. It's a compound inequality, because it can be both of those. Okay. One other thing I want to talk to you about that's not on these notes. If you have something like this, before you can start to solve this, you have to get that absolute value symbol all by itself. So the first step would be get rid of everything that's not inside the absolute value symbol. So you would subtract 2 before you even begin. And then you would get absolute value of 2x minus 1 equals 4. And then you would do your two equations. You have to have that absolute value symbol by itself. Here's another example. If you have, say, 2 times the absolute value of 3x minus 4 minus 6 equals 10, okay, we're going to get the absolute value symbol by itself. So the first thing you do would be add 6, and then you'd have 2 times the absolute value of 3x minus 4 equals 16. Then you have to divide by 2. You need that absolute value symbol by itself. So then you would get absolute value of 3x minus 4 equals 8. And then you would do your two equations. So then you would do 3x minus 4 equals 8, and 3x minus 4 equals negative 8. And it's the same thing with inequalities. You have to have that absolute value symbol by itself on one side before you can do your two equations or two inequalities. You're going to run into that on your assignment, and I just wanted to make sure that you knew that and were aware before you did that.